We have an incredible opportunity to create entirely new sustainable industries, investing in nature as the true engine of our economy.
The current global crisis has disrupted every aspect of our lives, but it has also presented us with an extraordinary opportunity, a chance to reset and accelerate efforts to improve the state of our world.
Changing our current trajectory will require bold and imaginative action, together with determination and decisive leadership. In order to secure our future and to prosper, we need to evolve our economic model, putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation. If there is one critical lesson we have to learn from this crisis, we need to put nature at the heart of how we operate. We are on the verge of catalytic breakthroughs that will alter our view of what is possible and profitable within the framework of a sustainable future. We need nothing short of a paradigm shift, one that inspires action at revolutionary levels and pace. We simply cannot waste any more time. The only limit is our willingness to act. And the time to act is now.
Hey YouTube world, Harvest is plenty. I hope all is well. Thanks for stopping by and checking out the video. I really appreciate that. Make sure that you click the thumbs up button, give me a like. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel and you're watching this, please consider becoming a subscriber by clicking that subscribe button. So where did we leave off at in part one? I think we left off talking about the devaluation of the global economy. The devaluation of the dollar, which will wreak havoc in the global economy. And so today I want to go through some headlines and read some of the things off to you of what they're saying and how they're preparing for this great reset. The great reset is not something new. It's not like, you know how a magician pulls a rabbit out of the hat? These guys didn't just one day wake up and pull a rabbit out of the hat. They've been planning for this for a very, very, very long time. And they used the pandemic to get it done. Now, also, let me say this as well. When I do videos, these videos are not to take away any hope that you may have or to make you sad or depressed or anything like that. There's always hope in Christ Jesus, you know, the one who redeems us and who saves us. This is just information. I'm giving you information so you can be aware of what's going on across the world and what these evildoers are doing. Scriptures say that we should expose the works of darkness, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just following what Jesus said, expose the work of darkness. And that's it. That's what I'm doing. So don't get depressed behind anything. Always remember that it doesn't mean that evil will triumph over you, your family, or your loved ones, or your friends. You know, they could plan whatever they want to plan, but their plans are not God's plans. So always remember that. All right, so let's move forward. So this first article says, the new BRICS alliance is a mortal threat to the West. A new global reserve currency will undermine U.S. dollar supremacy. And you see all those guys there on the screen. You see Vladimir Putin there. And, you know, they've been planning this stuff for a long time. With the Great Reset, pretty much what they're planning on doing is they plan on eliminating the lone world superpower, which is America. Under the New World Order, you cannot have one lone superpower. They want to spread the wealth, you know, spread everything. And that's great that they want to share the wealth, that they want to make sure that all the nations have food, have proper medicine, education, running water, clean air, you know, energy. I'm all for that. The only thing is, in order for these nations to participate, you know, with all these benefits, is that they got to come under the heel of the new order. And they got to give allegiance to the beast whenever the Antichrist comes out. Let's go to the next headline. It says a new world order. This is a headline from Brazil. A new world order. BRICS nations offers alternative to the West. And see, they're making it appear as if these nations are upset over the West, and they challenging the superiority of the West. But really, it's just a calculated move by the central bankers to take down the financial order. And like a phoenix bird, a new financial order will rise in its place. Here's another article. It says the Great Reset is coming for the currency. It says, as the Great Reset proceeds from globalist think tanks and technology billionaires to allied media elites, government, schools, and woke corporations, what will be reset next? Supporters of the World Economic Forum's all-encompassing Great Reset agenda are eyeing big changes for the global monetary system. Plans that might once have been dismissed as pure speculation or conspiracy theories are now being openly pushed by people who occupy the highest levels of government. And so what's interesting about this is that when many people talked about a Great Reset, they talked about a New World Order. And the New World Order consists of three major components: a one world government, a one world religious system, and a one world currency or monetary system. When people used to talk about those things, including me, we would get labeled as conspiracy theorists. That is not true. It's fake, because people judge everything by the corporate controlled, owned media. If the news is not talking about the New World Order, then it's not true. If your favorite politician is not talking about the New World Order, then it's not true. But you wake up today and everybody's talking about creating a New World Order or one world government. So people can't be mocked as conspiracy theorists anymore. This is conspiracy fact. It's completely true of what's going on. I talked to someone earlier and I was talking to him about the banks. And so the banks, is going to bring everybody into compliance. And this article says that it says how big banks are planning to force Americans into the Great Reset trap. Let me just read a little bit of this for you here. And you have the Bank of America logo. And it says this: in June of 2020, elites from around the world gathered to announce the launch of a plan to reset the entire global economy, a proposal they ominously named the Great Reset. It goes on to say, among the many world leaders and powerful institutions that pledged their support for the Great Reset at the June meeting were the International Monetary Fund, Prince Charles, the head of the United Nations, CEOs from major international corporations, and the World Economic Forum, one of the key ringleaders of the Great Reset. It says every country from the United States to China must participate in the Great Reset, and every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed, wrote Klaus Schwab. So you see that every country, every industry must participate in the Great Reset. And so what I was telling the person I was speaking with, I said, and when it comes to businesses, say you're an entrepreneur and you have your own small base business or whatever, your restaurant, your plumbing company, your car detail company, or whatever case may be, all the small business, your CPA, whatever. You have your own medical clinic that you run, whatever, consulting company, whatever the case may be. These banks are all part of it. Whether it's Bank of America, whether it's Chase, whether it's Wells Fargo, whether it's BB&T. I mean, you name the banks, they're all in it. Most of the credit unions who don't want to be in it are going to fold. So nothing's going to be safe. And they're going to say, hey, look, unless you, convert all your stuff over to this digital currency, you won't be able to get your permits for your business anymore. You won't be able to file your taxes for your business anymore. And they're going to bring everybody under the heel of this Great Reset. And it's insidious. But what are you going to do? Even the Pope is calling for it. It says Pope Francis calls for New World Order after the pandemic. Now, when it comes to the Pope, I've been talking about that because Pope Benedict, he was the Pope prior to this. Pope Benedict, he also called for a New World Order.
Pope Benedict XVI is calling for a new world financial order. In the third encyclical of his pontificate, Benedict denounced the profit-at-all-cost mentality of the globalized economy, and he lamented that greed brought about the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. The document, entitled Charity and Truth, was released just hours before the G8 summit gets underway in Italy.
We have seen the consequences of a globalization where the market has to find by itself the regulations and the rules. And we have seen the disaster that has been over the last year.
The pontiff stressed that he is not opposed to a globalized economy, saying that if done correctly, it has unprecedented potential to redistribute wealth around the world. But he did warn if globalization continues on the current path, modern societies risk increased poverty, inequality, and further environmental damages.
So there it is. Pope Benedict, who was a Freemason, he called for the New Order. And Pope Francis, the current Pope, who's also a Freemason, he's calling for a new world order after the pandemic. And so the shutdowns of 2020, guys, the pandemic, that was all planned out. I mean, they rehearsed it with something called Clade X. I used to have that on my old channel. And then after that, in 2019, they did something called Event 201. And they, second dress rehearsal with all of the major players, the news media, everybody was there. And the medical establishment was also a part of it, John Hopkins and stuff. And so they rehearsed everything, and then they rolled it out in 2020. And the entire world shut down. Every country participated in the shutdown. Every industry participated in the shutdown. When I was trying to tell people, because I saw Event 201 in 2019, I also saw Clade X. And so I didn't have a channel. And so I was just, physically, verbally telling my friends and other people what was going to happen and what was going on. Again, they thought I was crazy. They was like, man, there's no way in the world that you could shut down Las Vegas. You know how much money they're going to lose? And Las Vegas is run by the mob, and the mob don't believe in losing money. And then no way in the world they can shut down the NBA and the NFL and Major League Soccer and London and Japan and all these countries. No way in the world them countries are going to participate in that. No way in the world Russia going to shut down and China going to shut down. Yet someone that sits higher up on the pecking order said, all right, it's time for everybody to shut down, and everybody complied. Everybody shut down, and everybody came out with mandates. Even Russia had mandates that everybody had to take it. So what does that say about these countries that are so-called rogue countries to America? Everybody plays ball when it comes to the New World Order. It just is what it is. It says here, people was talking about the Vatican and will a Pope play ball? Well, the Pope's going to play ball. It says right here, the Vatican official at Davos says the church, talking about the Catholic Church, is implementing the World Economic Forum agenda. The Catholic Church intends to implement policies and programs to put into practice the issues considered by the forum. So the Pope has pledged allegiance to those guys. He's all in. He jumped in the pool with both feet. It says a Vatican cleric attending the 2002 Davos Summit, a conference hosted by the World Economic Forum, which advances a punishing green agenda, open borders, and future pandemic management, has said the Catholic Church is committed to the cause, to the various issues considered by the forum. So there it is. And then when it comes to, the devaluation of the dollar, look what the Pope says. I want you guys to see this. What does that say? It says Pope Francis instructs Vatican entities to move all funds to Vatican Bank by September 30th. Now, this was in 2022 when the Pope said this, because he knew what was coming down the pike, because he's also planning it. So to all, the different Catholic organizations and monasteries and stuff all around the world who had money in different banks and savings and loans institutions and, credit unions and stuff, he was like, nope, send out a memo, whatever. Look, we need all the money back into the Vatican Bank by September 30th. Because they know what's coming. So they're making sure that their people are together and everybody's in line, for this great reset, for this devaluation of the currency. What BRICS is doing, as I said before, is an orchestrated move, by the central bankers to get this thing kick-started off. And once it's, started, as I said, once the digital currency comes into play, it's going to be very restrictive, and it's going to assert control over every facet of our lives. Every facet of our lives. I'm about to share a video with you guys where it talked about programmable. That's the word, programmable. What Microsoft and Bill Gates was doing, because they said they wanted a digital inclusion for everybody, they talked about something called programmable DNA. And I got to be careful here because I don't want to get my video banned or knocked down. But when you see the guys speak about programmable and how they can program your card and your digital money and all that stuff, just remember your DNA is also programmable too, that Bill Gates and them talked about. Now I'll put that video up. It was something that happened, the mandates. That stuff is programmable. It calls you to be programmable. And that's what programmable was really talking about. But check out this interview, guys. I think I have to come back and do part 3. So stay tuned for part 3. Until next time, love you guys. Stay prayed up. In Jesus' name, love you guys. Take care. God bless.
Me, because even after they learned that you could still infect me, the vaccine passports were still in place. But they've told us, they meaning people in power, have told us what they want to do next. So the UK is currently the head of the G7 group. That's the world's most economically advanced countries. And the UK currently chairs the G7 group. Our Chancellor, who does our economy, called Chancellor of the Exchequer, his name's Rishi Sunak. He put out this video saying that what they want to do is bring in this thing called the central banking digital currency. They want to replace fiat paper money with digital money as a competitor to Bitcoin and crypto money, right? But instead of being decentralized currency, it will be controlled by a government. It's digital currency, but controlled centrally through the banks, Bank of England. So instead of having a bank account with whatever, HSBC or Bank of America, you'll have a bank account directly with, in the American context, with the Fed. In the UK, directly with the Bank of England. You have a personal bank account, and you're given digital money in that bank account. These are called central banking digital currencies. The Chancellor of the Exchequer in the UK has already announced their intention to do this as the G7 group. And these, if you look up...
this sounds terrifying.
If you look up, there's a specific article in the Telegraph, programmable digital currency, yeah?
Central bank digital currency, is that the one down below?
Digital currency should be programmable. See that one there? Yeah? But you can see the word there, right? Programming in the headline. Now, what they're doing is they're saying that this digital currency, once you're used, because, everyone knows that with inflation at over 5%, it's now 5.4%, right? Our fiat money, the paper money, is increasingly becoming worthless, and we're headed towards a big disaster. The Fed wants to raise interest rates. But we're in so much debt that if you raise interest rates, people are going to suffer because we're living on debt as Western economies. So they realize that this kind of the lifespan of paper money is fast coming to an end because of the 2008 economic crash in particular. So they're bringing in these central banking digital currencies. Why is that word programmable in there? So what they said in that article, and the Chancellor put a video out saying this as well. They said, right, think back to what vaccine passports were, yeah? If you don't have your jab, you can't even eat in this restaurant. What they've said, and why the word programmable was in that headline was, they've said that this money that you will earn from work, instead of having paper money, you have this digital money. It's programmable so that you can't buy certain foods, or if you do something that your employer doesn't like, it's all in that article. You won't be able to spend your money. In other words, it's not money. They're vouchers. They're like food vouchers. And they can be programmed so that, like the Chinese social credit system, that if you try and use them on a certain thing, it won't work. You say you want to buy a burger and they want you to buy bugs, which is one of the examples used. If you start to try and buy unhealthy meat, it just won't work. You tap your card, you can't buy the thing because you've met your quota that month of burgers. You have to buy something like a vegan meal.
So it won't just be money in the sense of the way we have dollars or pounds today.
Yeah.
It'll be something that's controlled in terms of your ability to distribute it.
Which is why I'm calling it a voucher. It's a coupon.
But even a coupon, if you have a coupon to buy bread, you can still buy the bread. Like, there's
But you can't buy, see, that coupon to buy bread, what you can't do is buy a burger with that coupon. It's for bread.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you will have this central banking digital currency, and then what they're talking about in that article that we just pulled up is they'll say, right, and it explicitly uses the words, won't be used on something that the employer deems inappropriate or the state deems inappropriate.
Oh, we got to see this.
Yeah?
See if we can find that. Or
I was digging through a different article about it too. It's talking about there's pilot programs going to be used in the Olympics coming up in China.
Yep.
They've already started it, and
right now,
do you feel like you're sounding the alarm?
Yes.
For people that don't understand what the fuck is going on.
So here, I'll put it up for you here. Yeah. So there's the video.
Yeah.
I don't know if your camera can see that, but
no.
There's the video. There's him speaking about it.
The G7 is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote that could be used alongside physical notes and coins. Unlike most of the digital money people use daily today, it would be issued directly by a central bank, like the Bank of England in the UK. And governments and central banks across the world are working together, looking into what having a digital currency might mean in practice.
Right, so that's the guy who runs our economy in the UK. His name's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And here is the article. Bank of England tells ministers to intervene on digital currency programming, yeah? And here's a quote from the article. This is in the Telegraph, the one he pulled up, but it was behind a paywall, so I'll just read the quote. Digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible.
Holy shit.
I'm going to take it one step further for you, Joe, right? So the vaccine passport infrastructure is in place. But now we know that the vaccine doesn't stop infection or transmission, but the checkpoint Charlie exists everywhere. They bring in digital banking, central banking digital currencies. You've got a scenario now that you're checking in and out everywhere you go using vouchers that are programmed and you can only spend where you're told you can spend them. There's another word for that, man. That's called the Chinese social credit system. That's what it's called. And anyone who watches Black Mirror will know what I'm talking about. That's that TV show, right?
Yeah.
So what they are telling us, and when I say they, who's they? People in power. That's the head of our economy, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, second most powerful person other than the Prime Minister and maybe the Foreign Secretary in the UK, right? He's telling us, I just played it there for you, he's telling us that's what he, as the UK, the head of the G7, want to bring in for the G7. So a scenario where, like in New York at the moment, because the passport infrastructure is in place, you bring in that digital currency and you've got this total control. And if I'm speaking to you the way I'm speaking now, and my employer or government, you heard that in the quote directly, yeah, deems me as saying or doing something inappropriate, suddenly I can't actually pay to come here and speak to you anymore. My digital currency won't even pay for the ticket because it will be known that I'm coming to speak to you. Sorry, your vouchers don't allow you to purchase that ticket to go and speak to Joe.
And this is where we get into the kind of censorship that we see in social media that is not, it's not, you can't have that kind of censorship with the First Amendment in normal discourse. But you can have that kind of censorship if you've developed a digital platform that distributes information, but it's a private company.
Yeah.
So think about what money is, where you can spend it on whatever you want, versus this digital currency, which is essentially controlled in a sense.
Yeah.
Like you have free speech on Twitter, but you really don't.
Yeah.
Because if you go too far or you talk about something that they don't find appropriate, they'll just ban your account. That could be what we're looking at in terms of what we think of as free speech being social media platforms could be what we think of as your free range ability to buy whatever you want with whatever money that you've earned.
What's going on here is with this central banking digital currency, if you get to that situation where you end up with the Chinese social credit system in the West, why would anyone want to do that, right? I believe we're in a moment of the Gutenberg press. Go back to when the printing press was invented. Technology disrupts power structures. It always has. Printing and its invention was a new technology. What happened when they invented the printing press? The power structures who up until that point were reading the Bible for you and were telling you that you've got to pay this priest X amount of favors and he'll forgive you your sins. And that became a bribery system, right? Which is what Martin Luther was so upset about when he pinned his thesis to the wall. The printing press disrupted that power dynamic because people could read the Bible for themselves. And they began realizing that the power structures were manipulating what was written to control people. Now, nobody in hindsight is going to argue that printing and its invention is a bad thing for humanity. But at the time, it led to war. It led to the 30 Years' War in Europe. What's today's Gutenberg press? The internet. Now, what's happening is that the invention of the internet, with the decentralization of information, and in particular here, the decentralization of currency in the form of cryptocurrencies, is disrupting those power hierarchies to have the infrastructure in place that you can have a checkpoint Charlie society, so that when the central banking digital currencies are in place, that infrastructure is already there because people were so scared they voluntarily allowed you to put that in place, so that you can maintain your grip on power, because what's coming around the corner is the decentralization of everything, of media, therefore of narrative. And of course, remember, whoever defines the truth gets to define reality. Decentralization of narratives, decentralization of the economy through crypto. You no longer have the power to define the story and control the money supply. So the powers that be, who are losing that power, need to clamp down. They're clamping down on their own children, because we are people who are born of the West. So it's an internal civil war in a hybrid war context over truth and over information. Centralization versus decentralization, basically. It's no longer about left or right. It's about up versus down. It's about power versus those who don't have power.
Right.
See how easy it was to convince everybody initially that the Iraq war was needed, right? Now, you've got a point today where they haven't been able to convince people of their measures that they wanted to bring in when COVID struck, because it was quicker to be able to unpick that narrative due to decentralization. Shows like this that weren't under the traditional yoke of traditional media were able to have certain conversations. Now, that means that it's harder to control the narrative. And so in a situation like that, when you're losing your grip and power, the only option you have left is to clamp down. There's going to be some short-term pain.
And what do you mean by that?
There'll be another emergency, whether it's war with Russia, which is already being played up, whatever it is, whether it's the crash of the economy because of the fiat and the inflation at 5.4%, at least in the UK, it's 5.4% here. I know it's out of control here as well. If the currency collapses, because we're living on printed money at the moment, it's called quantitative easing. We are literally printing ourselves money to try and pay for our debt. We're just printing more money. That's unsustainable. So we're in this situation where any other crisis could occur. If the food shortages everywhere and people end up rioting, it's a good reason to say, right, we need more power to control this. We need more emergency powers. We need stronger laws. And so you end up in a situation where crises can be manipulated to bring in stronger and stronger authority, when really what's going on is we're in this crossroads in history.